for possible, 12 at a time, or 16 at a time. They'd have them up in the jury bank. We would ask them questions, and the prosecutor would ask questions to see if they were qualified or disqualified. Now, a number of people, they were asked the question by the prosecutor, have you read the Pentagon Papers? And a couple men, I remember, each said, oh yes, I ran out every morning to get them. They were marvelous. These people are heroes. Dismissed. I would be sitting there thinking, one person like that could hang up the jury, for me for 115 years, but no, he's got to profess his admiration in front of the prosecutor. So he's off. And then the question that I asked was that have the jurors ever held a security clearance? Knowing, by the way, that having signed so many of those myself, that they would assume that a jury that got me off, if somebody on that jury had a security clearance, they would lose their job. In fact, some of the jurors who were, after the panels were dismissed, the jury was later dismissed, they were asked, we could talk to them, and they would say, oh yes, I would have lost my job. Clearance if I'd done. How can you say then that you were an objective juror? Well, he was guilty, obviously. They could be objective about it. They didn't have to worry about quitting me because I was obviously guilty from the start. But the other thing, I knew that they would have been told time after time when they signed these things that there was a law that was being broken. Now, I won't go on to all of it. I thought that myself, having signed those. And I was tried under such a law. But I was the first person ever tried. It was the Espionage Act, and it was not meant as an official secrets act. By this time, I learned that in the trial. We don't have an official secrets act like Britain that criminalizes release of merely top secret information. If it's communications intelligence or designs of nuclear weapons, we do have narrow acts that cover those. But those weren't in the Pentagon Papers. But I assumed I was breaking a law, as did these jurors who had a security clearance. So they would have been told, I admitted that I copied the papers, so they would have been told, took it for granted, that I was in effect admitting guilt, although in fact I pled not guilty. So as I felt later, I tried to tell the judge that I could not be fairly tried by people who had a security clearance, or had had one. So I think they had 16 jurors, some extras in the box, asking these questions. So they said, have any of you now have or have had a security clearance? And 13 of them raised their hand. They were mostly from Orange County, in the heart of the military-industrial complex. And since you asked the question, I can tell you, I felt actually an unfamiliar feeling, which I associated with roller coasters, maybe, the other time I feel that. And it was fear. And it wasn't fear of being convicted because I was assuming I would be convicted. It was fear that I was about to go through a long, prolonged, humiliating process, knowing how this was going to come out, knowing that they couldn't hear any of this testimony. It was going to be a charade. And I had this really sick feeling, fear. And the lawyer, actually, my lawyer made a motion. He said, my client is entitled to a trial, not a court-martial here. But, well, that's the way it turned out with the others. They all had security clearances. So, in answer to your question.